All right, we're now joined by Nompu Siziba, SABC News Economics Reporter, and she joins me now in studio this afternoon to look into the markets update after the rand tanked this morning as the tariffs ticked in. Nompu, very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for your time. So, I mean, these are quite hefty tariff increases that we are seeing taking in effect today. The rand has been very wonky. Just talk to us about how that's doing and how the markets are doing.
Yes, no, the rand has been wonky indeed. It depreciated against major currencies quite substantially earlier this morning. It's still on a downer, but it's retraced some of those losses. So my understanding is that against the US dollar, it traded at about... let me just remember in terms of the pound. So in terms of the pound, it traded at about 25 rand 50 against the British pound.
Yeah.
And against the US dollar, it traded at 1982. But has since retraced and I think is now hovering around the 1970s against the US dollar. It had actually come down even below 1970, but then it picked up very quickly. That is, it weakened again once we heard about the Chinese retaliatory tariffs of 84%, following the US levying 104%. So now I think the thing is now is to wait and see what the US response is going to be. Markets are going to open in the United States anytime now. My understanding is around 3:30 that they should be opening. And there's this indicator called the US futures where we're able to see how they're likely to open. And at the moment, it looks as though they're going to open 2% in the red. And of course, once they open, depending on what information all the investors are looking at and traders and so on, it could go up, it could go down. But the latest information that we have is China's retaliatory import tariffs, which is negative. Now, the next thing is to wait and hear what the US says and how it will respond. And I bet you a bottom dollar they're going to respond in less than 24 hours to that.
And I mean, a lot of concern, of course, globally, but particularly on the African continent, in South Africa as well, especially when you look at it in the context of, you know, just the geopolitical tensions that we're seeing between South Africa and the US. Now, a lot of people asking, what's next? You know, how long are we going to see the markets reacting in this manner? And will it stay on for some time? I mean, you've spoken to a number of analysts. What are they telling you? What are you hearing in as far as how long this is going to last?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's the million-dollar question. Although $1 million doesn't seem like a lot of money right now. But it is a very important question. You ask what next. I think what's going to be next is that if this situation is prolonged for too long a time, we are going to see inflation. A weaker rand means that we're going to be importing inflation. A positive is that the price of oil has come down, which means that petroleum products will also be down. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's also a negative sign because the fact that crude oil prices are down signifies that the world is concerned about global demand and how the global economy is going to perform, which then puts downward pressure on commodities like oil, because everybody needs oil, right, to move their countries, to run their countries. So I think, you know, what is going to happen, we have to wait and see. But I think when we look at the attitude of the instigator of all of these tariffs, it looks as though it's going to go on for quite some time, and people are going to have to be sort of speculating and making kind of guesses about what his next moves are going to be. I did see that President Trump was bragging about the fact that there was a long line of countries waiting to negotiate with him one-on-one about the tariffs, negotiating more favorable tariffs or whatever it may be. I don't know how long that process is going to take because, you know, these are a lot of countries that he would need to be talking to. But I think that this is going to be a long drawn thing. I don't see us next week suddenly saying everything's gone back to normal. He seems very intent to go ahead with these tariffs. Interestingly enough, I saw a comment that Elon Musk was even criticizing the person who had advised Donald Trump about pursuing this new tariff policy. And he's supposed to be in the same seat with him. So maybe that bromance is not going to last so long.
Absolutely. I mean, I was going to ask, was he not part of that advisory team? But Nompu, as we wrap up our conversation, another, of course, concern, especially for South Africans, is looking at this in terms of how we are also performing, as a country. We've just had the fiscal, report, signed, and the budget has been approved. Essentially, we might be seeing those tariff increases come the 1st of May. So looking at it, holistically for South Africans, what are the implications? I mean, what are you being told?
Yeah. So in terms of the Trump tariffs, obviously, like everybody else who's now going to be subjected to higher tariffs, those tariffs kick in today, which means that US consumers are going to be paying 31% more in terms of tariffs on South African goods. We'll have to wait and see how that then impacts, US consumers. Are they going to continue buying our goods at the rate that they do? How is it going to impact on the South African exporter? That's the number one. The number two, around VAT, which was featured heavily in the whole budget and fiscal framework story, is that it does look as though VAT is going to increase on the 1st of May, 0.5 percentage point increase. So we'll have VAT at 15.5%. That means all goods and services are going to go up, as a result of VAT. We know that the DA has put in an application at the court to prevent that from happening. It's very late in the day. It is an urgent application. We need to wait and see if they're going to be successful. I think I saw something about the EFF also doing something similar recently. But according to the VAT Act, Section 7, subsection 4 of the VAT Act says that when the finance minister announces that he's going to raise VAT to whatever tune, he is then allowed to implement it on the said date for a year. So, barring the application to the courts, it really does look as though we're going to experience those increases. So we're going to get increases. The fact that the rand is on a weak turn at the moment means that we're already going to be importing inflation. So at the moment, the story is not looking good. We've heard about the US Fed possibly trying to intervene by cutting interest rates to bring some liquidity to the markets and make them feel a little bit good, given the massive sell-off on equities. But I don't have the same level of confidence that Lesitsha Kganyago will be looking at cutting rates in our economy.
All right, Nompu, thank you so much for that. Of course, Nompu Siziba is SABC News Economics Reporter, just unpacking just some of those implications are for us. Thank you so much for your time.